Welcome back to Quinte Connection. Thanks so much for joining us as we've got members of the Prince Edward Flying Club with us now, a member Lorraine Wilson and a pilot and member Lola Reed Allen. So Lorraine and Lola, thanks so much for taking the time. So great to meet you.
Welcome.
And thank you, Lindsey, for inviting us here. We're thrilled to talk about our program.
Yeah, so Lorraine, walk us through initially the history of the club, because I understand it's a big milestone this year.
It is. The club, Prince Edward Flying Club, was formed in 1953. Earlier on was known as Camp Picton. So this year we're celebrating our 70th anniversary. So we've had a number of events to commemorate this milestone. We're standing right now as a club, about 50 members, always looking for new members, of course. And when we began 70 years ago, it was on what was called the British Air Force. I'm just looking at the actual terminology here. The British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, which was at Camp Picton. And we started the flying club. We bought a number of planes. We had up to about 18 planes at the time. Our first was a Piper Cub. And we offered training. We trained many pilots over the years that still fondly look at Prince Edward Flying Club as sort of where they got their early start in aviation. And now, as the club has gone, it has aged. We're more of a social club. So the members, we get involved in fly-in breakfasts where pilots from the area fly in. We serve them a nice breakfast. We have a lot of social events. In the fall, we're actually hoping as a group to go and tour the Air Force Museum in Trenton. So that's sort of a little rundown of sort of where we're at right now.
Thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate it. And Lola, a pilot with us now. Walk us through kind of what's happening September 23rd, because you've been really the driving force behind this first career fair for young women and girls.
We're really excited about it. I'd wanted to have something like this for quite some time, and it's not my idea in the sense of it's not my brainchild. There are other events similar to it held in Ontario, across Canada, and in fact around the world by various female pilot support organizations. But we decided to call this one Find Your Wings, because we're also including other careers that young women and girls may not even have thought possible. So for example, not just being a pilot, but we're having aircraft maintenance engineers attend the event, and that's it's a mechanic who might fix various parts of the aircraft. We're having avionics, which would be radio technicians, air cadets. We're also having female firefighters and female OPP from the Picton detachment coming to our event. And it's a free half-day event. We're targeting young women and girls, roughly say age 8 to 30, but everyone's welcome. And in fact, everyone, parents, boys and girls, because we think it's important that everyone recognizes that these careers, even though they've been traditionally male domain, that there's no reason that they have to be. And as our society changes, we are recognizing that these careers can be done by men or women.
And we've certainly seen the conversation shift even here locally with Camp Molly in terms of firefighting. So Lola, for you, I mean, the event's going from 1 to 4. Walk us through kind of the speakers, kind of to understand there's quite a list of them.
There are. Women have been involved in aviation for many years, almost as soon as the first balloon, the Lillian Fall balloon, went up in the air. But strangely, the first female airline pilot was hired in 1934 in America, and her career was very short-lived. The pilots union refused to accept a woman. And it wasn't until 40 years later, until 1973, that Rosella Bjornson of Alberta was hired by a forerunner of Pacific Western, which is a forerunner of Canadian. But she was the first female airline pilot hired in Canada, and that was 1973. There were only 2 or 3 around in the next decade. And even now, only 6% of airline pilots and instructors are female. And we really want to change that. So we want to get the word out that aviation is a career that's open to everyone. And it's not, as I mentioned, it's not just flying. So the people we're going to have speak, we have 4 different groups of two people. So the first up are a military contingent, and it's Major Mickey Colton. She's from the military, and she is retired now. She was the first female pilot to log 5,000 hours on the Hercules. And then she's going to be speaking back and forth with her good friend, who is a navigator, Lieutenant Colonel, also retired, Georgie Jones. And she had a 31-year career in the military. Then we have two aircraft maintenance engineers, both Canadore College graduates, and we are having the colleges there to speak as well. One of them is Katie Reese, who is from Trenton. Oh, and by the way, Mickey Colton lives in Prince Edward County and runs an equine sanctuary. Georgie Jones lives in Hastings County, just north of me. And so the two AMEs, the aircraft maintenance engineers, one is for fixed wing and one is for helicopters, and they're both Canadore graduates. And then we have three air cadets. So one of the aircraft maintenance engineers is an air cadet, and then we have two sisters who are air cadets and come from a long line of aviation or pilots. And so they're both glider pilots, they're both fixed wing pilots, and former cadets. And they're both at Queen's University, one studying medicine, and the other one is in mechanical engineering with a focus on aerospace. And the last two people to speak will be my friend Mira Bisanuth, who is my co-lead with the 99's Education and Outreach Committee. That's the Eastern Ontario chapter. And the 99's is one of several female pilot outreach organizations. So it was started in 1929 by Amelia Earhart. So Mira and I are going to talk about civil aviation and instructing, float flying, and how to do it.
And for you, Lola, with your career, what do you hope to inspire the next generation with? What is your kind of piece of advice, and how has the aviation sector been shifting to be hopefully more equal eventually?
A piece of advice. You certainly have to have a passion for aviation. There's no doubt about it. It's not difficult. You just have to be able to read and write and have basic basic sense of what's right and what's right side up. It's very easy, actually. There are some difficult sections, but just working hard. I would recommend probably going to an aviation college or university. The colleges and universities some of the colleges and universities will be at our event on September 23rd, and they'll give lots of information about engineering, about aerospace, learning to fly, becoming a maintenance engineer. If some people grow up, so the two sisters, the Baldessaro sisters, they had their family as inspiration. Those are role models. But not everybody has that. And I didn't have a role model, and it made a big difference. I didn't start flying till age 24. It wasn't something I even thought about. Like another friend of mine, in fact, several friends of mine started in their mid-20s as well. It's just, they graduated from university, they got a good job, but they weren't really happy. So it's never too late to start learning how to fly. You probably wouldn't be hired as a 70-year-old commercial pilot for health reasons more than anything, but you certainly can learn to fly at any age. But this day that we're planning should give anyone who is even remotely interested in one of the aviation-related careers a really good idea of how one might do it.
Thanks, Lola. Certainly very informative. And Lorraine, for you, I mean, how have you seen the club kind of grow and expand? Are younger people getting into flying locally?
Some are. It's not a cost. It's not a cheap undertaking. Certainly in civil aviation, the flying clubs are unfortunately in Canada fewer and farther between than they would be in the States. So that's a little bit of a deterrent. But I mean, if the Air Cadets is such a great training ground, and the idea is you go from Air Cadets to then a career in aviation, whether that be a pilot, they get glider training and so on, or just really exploring further the aviation industry.
Well, certainly lots of different avenues. As we wrap up here, Lorraine, where can people go for more information on this and the Flying Club and keeping track of Lola and this great event?
Thank you. So PEFC, which is Prince Edward Flying Club, PEFC.ca. We've got a wealth of information on there, and we actually have a section that is entitled Find Your Wings, and that's all about the event, the information on the speakers, some of the other presenters, so lots of great information.
Well, Lorraine and Lola, thanks so much for taking the time, and good luck going forward.
Thank you for
Thank you so
inviting
much.
us. Thank you.